You're
Yeah.
good now.
And it's Kit Kreitzer for CamVetsMedia. We cover cadets, midship, and the military and veterans proudly since 2008. Another edition of our Army football huddle. After an extraordinary win on Saturday night, Army defeating Kansas State in Manhattan, Kansas, 24-21, coming from behind, down 13-0, and having to score late in the game. On a Cale Helms 14-yard rush with 2 minutes and 52 seconds to reclaim the lead, which they held on to. So extraordinary game to talk about, and we've got our team assembled across the country. And we've got Colonel Sam Houston and the Eat Navy studio in Huntsville, Alabama. How are you, Colonel?
Hey, Ken, I'm doing fantastic, and I wanted to give a shout out to my parents, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Marine Corps retired Clay Houston, and his beautiful wife, Naomi. Today is their 70th wedding anniversary. Happy
70th.
anniversary, Mom and Dad, and go
Wow,
Army.
that's extraordinary.
The anniversary.
That is really extraordinary. And
Happy
our best
anniversary.
wishes to your parents. That's something.
Yeah.
Well, okay. And who else we have? We've got in West Palm Beach, Richard Miller. How are you, Richard?
I'm doing very well, Ken, after a hard-fought, good win, thrilling win for Army, their first of the season.
Yeah, it was amazing. And also we have, who else we have? We have Jack McGurk in Pelham online. Do we have Jack?
I'm here, happy to be here, and nice win for Army, and a heck of a first career start for Cale Helms.
It sure was. And we'll go through that and see. Do we have anyone else? I know we're
Right
have
here.
a new friend joining us, Curtis Harris. Is he Curtis here yet?
Yeah, I just joined. Sorry about the delay on my end. I was having technical issues.
No, that's all right. Our director Stephanie in Minnesota really worked it out. Had to work through a number of things. Welcome, Curtis. I understand you've got a very strong West Point connection.
Yes, yes. So my father attended West Point. He's a graduate of class of 1978. He's also on the board of the Alumni Graduate Association at West Point. So he's very involved, and I've been attending Army football games since I was born. My dad would bring me up to West Point every weekend for the games, starting back in 1994. And I've become a passionate fan through that. I live and breathe West Point. I mean, even since I was a kid, I would look up recruiting aspects of West Point in terms of the football team, who they were recruiting, the prospects that were coming in back when I was 8 years old during the off season.
Wow.
And so now here I am, and we just beat Kansas State, which is such an amazing thrill. And I also travel with the team to away games, just through access that my dad has been luckily enough for me, giving me access to. So I feel very
What part of the country do you live in?
I live in New York City, born and raised.
Oh, you're in New York City, so you're not too far. Okay, great. That's
And then
wonderful.
Chuck.
Yeah, do we introduce Chuck? Chuck
No.
Not yet.
Donegan? Okay, Chuck Donegan from out in Long Island. Chuck, how are you?
Rick Ken, still stoked about the incredible rally in Kansas State this weekend. Definitely one for the books.
It was. Chuck is our sideline reporter at the home games. And okay, let's get into it. We're gonna try to bring in some video. I was very fortunate to be on site in Manhattan, Kansas. Actually got to Fort Leavenworth and Fort Riley on the day before the game, and we were able to be at the Association of Graduates party. I know Colonel was there and Stephanie was there, and we talked a little bit to the superintendent, General Steve Gillen. They had the Spirit Band and the Rabble Rousers, about 500 people there. And it was really good start to the day. And it was Fort Riley Day at the stadium in Kansas State. The stadium, it seats about 52,000, and it's very modern. And nice job by the Kansas State Marching Band with their pregame show honoring veterans. And then the game started. And Sam, why don't we just go through and get some of your impressions?
Yeah, let me start off. There was a lot of gloom and doom last week after the Tarleton State game. And one of the things that I pointed out in our huddle last week was it's not panic time yet. Okay. Yeah, the Tarleton State loss was tough. But in the immortal words of LL Cool J, don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. And that's what Army football is under Jeff Monken. And they
Oh, yeah.
proved that on Saturday night. As a team, there are some key elements of what made Saturday night happen: violence, confidence, teamwork and execution, and brotherhood. They were all on full display Saturday night. There are so many highlights about the game that we could go through. I just want to mention a few that demonstrate the domination that Army was able to put on display against a P4 team that, let me remind everyone, was picked to win the Big 12 conference this year. Number one is time of possession. Army held the ball for 40 minutes and 29 seconds in this game. In the second half, they held the ball for 26 minutes and 59 seconds. Kansas State only had the ball for 3 minutes and a second in the second half, the entire second half. Army committed 0 turnovers. Army was 6 of 7 on fourth down efficiency.
That's amazing.
And they had 20 first downs. 3 of the second half drives consumed over 7 minutes. K-State's defense was completely demoralized. They were exhausted. They were defeated. And let's say that Cale Helms was demonstrating his inner Bryson Daly, especially in the second half. He set an all-time Army record for carries in a game. Now,
Yeah.
Army is a program that has been around for a long time, about 130 years or so. And Cale Helms set the record at 41 carries during the game, and finished with 124 yards. And let's just remind everybody that if you add back the 22 yards he deliberately lost on the final drive in order to properly manage the clock and run time off the clock so that Army could close out the game, he gained more yards than that. But it was all aspects of what was happening on the field. On offense, the offensive line came together. With 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go in the second quarter, I don't know what the discussion was on the sideline, but by golly, there were some adjustments made that allowed Army to gain the confidence, tighten up their bootstraps and get the job done on a 2 minute and 30-second drive to finish out the half with a touchdown on fourth down, on fourth and goal, as time expired. So
That
going
was really
into the half
someplace.
where it looked like Kansas State was dominating the game, and by all aspects they were, except on the scoreboard. But Army was only staring at a 13-7 deficit and a world of confidence over what they had just done in the last 2 minutes and 30 seconds of the game. And in the second half, the defense did what they had to do. Although Army was stuffed on, I think, 4 or 5 downs in the first on their first drive, the defense still had a 4 and out on Kansas State. Kansas State never saw the ball again until there were 2 minutes and 25 seconds to go in the entire half. And the only bright spot for Kansas State, which was one of only 3 real mistakes that Army made in the entire game, was the kick return that they had for a touchdown. And it was a breakdown in coverage for the Army special teams. But the double-edged knife of the kick return for a touchdown was that Kansas State's defense, which was already smoked, had to go right back on the field. They got no break. And after Army scored a field goal to close the gap back to 21-17, there was a miracle play that you probably see only twice a season, if at all. I don't think I've ever seen it happen, honestly, especially not in person. Is that after being torched for a kick return for a touchdown, Army lined up and the call on the field was a squib kick because they wanted to prevent another long return. But it just so happened that the squib kick was perfectly drilled into one of the front Kansas State kick return team members who was backing into coverage, caroomed off his legs straight back to the Army team who recovered it. So it looked like it was a designed onside kick when really it was just a squib kick that happened to hit a K-State player, had a perfect bounce back to Army, gave Army the possession again. Guess what, K-State's defense? You're not getting a break. You're coming right back on the field. And at this point, K-State's defense was smoked. I
Well,
don't care.
that was just such a killer and great moment for Army because they're still trailing at that point, 21-17. And with it's 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, but then Army gets the ball back and is able to do another 14-play, 56-yard drive, consume 7 minutes, 51 of the clock.
Yeah.
To take the lead.
Yeah.
24-21, and then Colin Madison ices the game with an interception on the last opportunity by Kansas State. Okay, let's go around a little bit. Chuck Donegan, what was your thought on the game?
Well, Ken, it was certainly one for the ages, was very impressed. I mean, I was nervous at first, I must admit, but it was the epitome of the phrase, don't count them out for the Black Knights. I mean, that 13-0 deficit early on really had me worried, but, they showed their strength, did a great job. I know. Yep. And then got it 21-14 near the end of the fourth. Then, just kind of rallied from there, really pulled it together. It was amazing. 27-24. Yeah, it doesn't get much closer than that, I'll tell you.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a feeling, the pit of my stomach sitting in the press box when Army's doing the comeback in the second half. It was sort of the way I still remember in 2016, the day they beat the streak. Just hoping that they were going to be able to hold on and then prevail. Because I've been at those road games like this at Michigan, at Oklahoma, at Ohio State, at Wisconsin, where they couldn't quite get a win against a Power 4 team. But on Saturday, they did. Okay, Chuck, thank you. Let's go to Jack McGurk. What was your thought?
That was a heck of a game for Army. Kind of started off slow with that 13-0 deficit, but Sam was talking about the dominance in the second half. I'll throw out a couple other stats here. If you look at the offense in the second half, Army had 192 total offensive yards in the second half to Kansas State's 48. Rushing yards in the second half, Army 143, Kansas State a whopping 5. And another highlight in the game in the third quarter, Army pulled off a great trick play where there was a short pass to Noah Short, backwards pass, and then he just launched the ball down the field 52 yards to Brady Anderson. A trick play there.
Well, actually, we were waiting in the press room after the game, and Noah Short came in, and they're waiting for Cale Ellam. So I asked Noah, who I know pretty well, I said, Noah, did you guys just kind of put that together in the huddle, like we do on a playground? And he said, no, they practiced it all last week. So, that really, beat the Kansas State defense. Okay, we got to hear from Richard Miller. What was your thought watching the game from Florida?
My thought on watching the game from Florida, Army they just continued to press on. After, I think, falling behind early the way that they did from, halftime being down 13-7, and then I think, continuing to put it on, specifically, the third quarter when Army got the touchdown that Clay
Okay.
Holmes got the 1 yard run. That really, I think, it turned the tide right there. I had a feeling right there once Army scored in the second half. I knew that that this was going maybe going to be their day. Of course, they also
Okay.
had to get the field goal from Dawson Jones a little late on, but then Clay Helms again with the 14-yard run again to really ice the game. I think certainly a huge win for me. You cannot go 0-2 in the early portion of the season.
Yeah, that really, in a lot of ways, you're right. They really didn't want to go 0-2 going into the bye week, and they got the best case scenario, a huge road upset win against a Power 4 team from 52,000 people, a national television audience on ESPN, and what a night! Now let's hear from our new friend Curtis Harris. Curtis, now where did you watch the game from?
I watched the game from my place in New York City. I
You were
wasn't able to
okay.
make the trip. Go ahead.
So what did it look like on television to you on the ESPN broadcast?
So, as Sam had mentioned, and he was very spot on with this. The time of possession was very noteworthy on TV. I mean, it was very obvious that, especially in the second half, just witnessing all the, you can call it luck to some extent, like the squib kick that ended up hitting the Kansas State player off the leg and then bouncing back towards Army. All of that, and then also Kansas State's kick return for a touchdown after Army scored touchdown off of the 2 or 1 yard line going in with their quarterback. More so, that kept the offense from being on the field. And I'm talking about the Kansas State offense. It was very apparent that Kansas State, I mean, from their perspective, I know that we're Army fans, but from Kansas State's perspective, that kick return for a touchdown was actually the worst thing that could have happened to Kansas State. Because that kept their defense back on the field. They were essentially, their defense was very tired, and even the announcers on ESPN were discussing that and mentioning it. It was very like their rhythm, the way that they were, I guess moving around on the field and trying to get players in and out on their defense was very apparent. But more so, it was amazing to see us finally pull off a Power 4 win. Not including Missouri. I'm really looking at Missouri that we had back in 2021 in a bowl game. But I'm looking at when we played Michigan, Oklahoma, those games where we came so close, but then we didn't luck out at the end. In this case, we really played well as a team. Army, I think, in the second half, and on top of that, our play call with the touchdown at the end of the second half to get us to 7-13 was very vital. It looked like if I don't know if it looked like this in person, on TV it looked apparent, but it seemed like that play that led to that touchdown at the end of the second half. At the end of the first half, with our quarterback scrolling to the right. It looked like he had been blitzed from the left, and it was kind of our quarterback, making it up on his own, which saved us. And he went to the right and found Brady wide open in the corner of the end zone. But more so, yeah, go ahead.
Well, you may have had a better view. It was at the far side of the field from where we were up on the 5th floor of the stadium. But I know they work on that play in practice. I've watched them do it. They like the rollout pass. It helps them on protection, and then that outside pass, but just Brady Anderson be able to be there and make the catch. I mean, I couldn't really see, but he was extended and he caught the ball and he stayed in bounds, got his feet in bounds.
Yep.
And what a play that was.
Yeah.
And it was going to be the last play of the half.
And it was. And Curtis mentioned the Kansas State edge rusher who came in from the left side of Army's line. And when it comes to pointing out that they say, do your job, like every person do your job, teamwork is critical. That edge rusher got chipped by Hayden Reed, and that disrupted his rush. Otherwise, he had a straight line rush to sack Cale Helms on that play. But because of Hayden Reed being Johnny on the spot and chipping that edge rusher and disrupting his momentum, it gave Cale Helms a half-second split in order to have a step ahead of that edge rusher who was right behind him and get that pass off. Otherwise, that play is a sack and the half is over and Army gets 0 points. So hats off to Hayden Reed for being Johnny on the spot on that edge rusher.
Exactly. And
Okay.
sorry, I should have mentioned that. Yeah, that was an amazing block or a chip, and if it wasn't for that, I don't know what would have happened, but it was a tremendous. All of that was just well done, and also the coaching calls. I should have mentioned the fourth, us going for it on fourth. I think we went 6 and 7 for fourth down conversions.
Yep.
That was huge. I mean, Jeff Monken's coaching strategy. Very aggressive, obviously, but it was incredible to watch. I mean, it was like playing chess and they were playing checkers. We were very, I mean, it was great coaching calls on Jeff Monken's behalf. At least that's how it would look visually via TV.
Yeah.
And Cody Worley, the offensive coordinator, of course. What was really vital there was the 3rd and 5 at the Kansas State 23-yard line with 20 seconds left, when Cale Helms did a pass completion to Noah Short.
Yeah.
That went for 18 yards down the 5, gave him a 1st and goal on the 5-yard line with about 13 seconds left. And then they went pass complete to Samari Howard. Then they went pass incomplete. On 3rd and goal, 4th and goal, they get the touchdown pass. Hey, through our director, Stephanie, I think we have some of Coach Monken's post-game comments as a new feature on the Huddle. Stephanie, you want to try that? See if you can bring up Coach Monken?
Yeah, let's give this a try.
All right.
We're going to try and do more of this. I was really privileged to be able to talk to Coach Monken and the players in the media room after the game.
Oh, Ken, go ahead.
And I was going to say we had 500 people watching off our Twitter account.
Yeah.
All
Sure.
right.
Here we go.
Cale just played so well. I mean, I can't say enough for Cale Helms. His effort tonight, his poise, his toughness, physical. He's just a competitor and a winner. It's what he. It's just exactly what we recruited. We knew that when he was in high school. We could see the competitiveness in him. He was a winner, and he just. I don't know.
Okay, that was Army coach Jeff Monken. To extent he was a little more relieved than I think, exuberant, in his way. He was very down after the Tarleton State game.
Oh yeah.
And I talked to him a little bit about that, and he said he just, the tension is a lot in that role as a head coach. And but he had to keep his poise. What really stood out was how few mistakes Army made. So he said no fumbles, no interceptions, playing a quarterback making his first start, and being able to play with the poise, and very few penalties for Army. I think there was maybe 2.
Yeah, there were actually 3, Ken.
3?
Yeah, last week I made comment that this was a game in which Army had 0 margin of error. They had to be 0 margin of error for the game. A lot of people might have taken that as me saying that Army cannot make a single mistake. What 0 margin of error means is that when you balance your mistakes against the other team's mistakes, you have to come out on top. And yeah, Army had 0 turnovers. They in the first half, and Stephanie can attest to this because I was very vocal about it. There were 2 drives that Army was on the second half where they had a false start or an illegal formation penalty. And both of those penalties killed the drive. And I was adamantly saying they can't keep doing this. They've got to show discipline. There's still a lot of football to be played. And then they had on defense in the first half, again, there was a play where Kansas State was deep in their own territory. I mean, inside their own 10, they got stopped for a loss. And the Army player got into a scuffle with one of the Kansas State players, and a unsportsmanlike penalty was called. Unfortunately, it was called on both players, so it negated, and it was a dead ball foul. So the play did not get replayed. But the problem was is that if the Army player had kept his cool on that penalty, then Kansas State would have been backed up half the distance to the goal line, and it might have prevented them from continuing their drive on that particular play. But in honesty, Army only committed 4 true mistakes. There was a false start, there was an illegal formation, both in the second half. There was the unsportsmanlike penalty, and then there was the breakdown in the kickoff coverage in the second half. Other than that,
Well,
Army played a
that the
perfect game.
kickoff coverage really was surprising.
It turned out to be a blessing in disguise. And I actually said that out loud after they scored. I looked at Stephanie and I said, well, if there's a bright spot in this, Kansas State's defense is going to come right back on the field. They didn't get a break.
But, Kansas State didn't score a touchdown in the second half, except for the kick return. And, they just really couldn't finish their drives when they did get the ball. And, having to settle for a field goal twice in the first half instead of having a bigger lead. So let's hear, I think, Stephanie, we've got Army quarterback Cale Helms from my talk with him post-game.
Yes, I will get that up now.
Good job, Stephanie.
All
Yeah, good
right.
job.
Thank you. Here's Cale Helms on his first starting.
Yeah, it was awesome. I couldn't have done it by myself. Having the O-line there, the slots like Noah Shore, the receivers, everyone blocking their tail off. Overall, it was a great victory on both sides, offense and defense, even special teams. As you saw that at the end. It was just a big time win. We needed that, and I'm just extremely blessed and grateful. And God put me in a great position. I'm thankful.
What can I ask you? Okay. Now, as Army quarterback Cale Helms, after his first start, extraordinary performance. And, he went into the season as the number 3 quarterback behind Dwayne Coleman and then Ethan Washington. Ethan Washington on the second series in the first scrimmage gets a turf injury. And I'm not sure if he's going to be able to be back this year. So it was quite an evening that put national television, and one that I know the Kansas State fans aren't happy about it. But after having gone on the road to some of the big road games that Army's played in the Jeff Monken era, the Penn State game, the Boston College game, Oklahoma, Michigan, Wisconsin, they finally pulled one off. And I kind of wondered why they scheduled this game. I said, Kansas State, why are they going out there? It's not quite at the level of Ohio State or Michigan, but Kansas is home to 2 big Army bases. It's like going home for the U.S. Army with Fort Riley and Fort Leavenworth, and then they make it Fort Riley Day. So there were lots of soldiers there in the stadium. And it really was nice to visit the 2 bases and see what the U.S. Army looks at its finest in 2 of its longest standing historic bases.
Hey, Ken?
Yeah, Richard?
I think I know why I will just guess this, and this may be entirely may be wrong. I think it's because this happens because Army was so good last year. They want to give them a schedule and see if they can. They want to challenge them and make the schedule maybe a harder for them, and to see if they can still live up to those up to those expectations.
Well, last year the equivalent game was Notre Dame, which
Notre
was
Dame
pretty
game.
tough.
So I actually happen to have
the season after 9 wins. But yeah, but going out on the road to a place like Kansas State, 52,000 at the game. The band, they had an amazing marching band, at least 200 performers. There They put the band right behind the Army bench. And so it was a big time atmosphere, and to be able to succeed is just shows the potential of this team and the poise of a Jeff Monken coach team. You know, very few mistakes, and when they got the opportunities, they made the most of them.
Hey, do you mind if I say something really quick?
Go ahead, Curtis.
Just the insights that I have. Apparently, the reason why we scheduled Kansas State, beyond the stuff that Ken mentioned in terms of the two military bases, which is very cool, and I hope it was really cool visiting them. But essentially, what happened was, at least what my dad told me, and I don't know if this is fully accurate, but Kansas State offered us $1,175 for us to travel to Kansas State to play them back in 2000, I think 20 during COVID, for this season. And Army had actually hoped to play another big time program like Michigan or Ohio State. I think this is just what my dad told me. And I'm sorry that I'm throwing my dad's name out there like this, but we were just discussing it. He said that we were planning on playing a bigger program, and that no offense to Kansas, and I hate to say it like that, but you know, as you mentioned, Michigan, Oklahoma, something like that, and Kansas came first, and Kansas State came first, and we took it. So that's just the insight
They
that I
got
have.
the papers are all saying that, you know, that Army got 1.2 million reasons to go out there.
Yeah.
And then it's a big U.S. Army territory.
Yeah.
More than I realized. But you got two historic U.S. Army bases. You know, Fort Leavenworth is the home of the U.S. Army Staff College, and then Fort Riley, the home of the First Infantry Division.
Yep. And as Curtis pointed out, these games, they don't get scheduled like the season before. Like this game was scheduled like 3 or 4 seasons ago. And as chance would have it, Kansas State had a great year last year. I think they won 9 games. Avery Johnson, their quarterback, had a phenomenal season, and he returned as the starter, and they brought several starters back. They have not performed as well as they had hoped to. They did lose their number 1 running back in the Iowa State game, and he has not returned. I think he had like a high ankle sprain. He's not going to be back until later this month, I hear. I'm not complaining about that because he wasn't available for Army. But the fact is that Kansas State was projected to be one of the leaders to win the Big 12 conference this year. And they may still turn their season around. And they definitely have the talent to. And as I told Stephanie, I don't care. Honestly, I hope that Kansas State wins out from here on out. I really do. I hope they win the Big 12 conference. And there's more reasons than just because Army played them and beat them. It's because when we were there, their fans were totally, they were courteous, they were professional,
Extraordinary.
they were friendly. I thought it was an absolutely fabulous hosting performance by
People
the
couldn't have been
entire
nicer.
Kansas State organization. And I really, if anyone from Kansas State is bothering to watch this, I just want to say thank you for hosting Army. You guys were just the best host, and you were very courteous to us, and we appreciate your professionality. And I even saw Kansas State fans at the end of the game cheering the Army team when they were singing their alma mater. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and all the Kansas State players walked behind Army during the alma mater, and
They sure
it
did.
was a very nice moment. We do have that up on our YouTube page. We have the alma mater film from the 6th level of the stadium. They actually had a photographer's platform at the very top of the stadium, above the press box, which was neat. We were able to capture the pregame performance, halftime, and then the alma mater. Okay, let's go, Richard. What were your 5 games you want to highlight from last week?
Thank
You
you.
ready,
And
Richard?
the 5 games out.
Let's do 5. Limited to 5 today.
Okay, the 5 games from last week. Let's see. Baylor defeated SMU. They are both 1-1 on the season. Overtime, 48-45. Baylor gets the win. SMU is ranked number 17 in the country. Let's see. Number 16, Iowa State. 16-13 over Iowa. Iowa State goes to 3-0, while Iowa goes to 1-1 on the season. Also, and Jennings, by the way, in that game had 3 touchdowns. Robinson for the Bears had 4 touchdowns. also as well, number 24, Texas Tech 62-14 over Kent State. Morton with 3 touchdown passes in the game for Texas Tech. Number 23, Indiana 56-9 over Kennesaw State. Mendoza for the Hoosiers had four touchdown passes and for
Okay.
245 yards. And let's see if
One more, Richard.
okay, yeah, okay. I'm trying to get to that. That other game is Illinois number 11 against Duke. Both teams are 1-1 on the season. Illinois is a 45-19 victory over Duke. Altmaier for the Fighting Illini had three touchdown passes in that game for 296 yards, despite a strong showing from Minesh, who had 334 yards and 2 touchdown passes in that game.
I
Hey, and
watched
how
that
about
game.
Kanye Udo for Arizona State and their loss? I think they lost to Ole Miss, was it, or Mississippi State? Had 105
Mississippi
yards
State.
rushing.
And a
Mississippi
touchdown.
State
Yeah.
and a
105 and a
touchdown.
touchdown.
So he's off to a good start. He wasn't the only back for Arizona State that had 100 yards. They must be a
No.
pretty good rushing team.
They
Yep.
had one other back who had 100 or over 100 yards. But yeah, Kanye Udo, he didn't play last week as much, but good for him on the good day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was looking. Andre Carter is now with the Detroit Lions.
Oh,
Yeah,
And so among players, Cole Christensen's on the Chiefs roster.
Yeah.
So it's
attaboy.
good. We're going to try and follow them during the course of the year.
I think Jimmy Charlo's on the Bills practice squad still.
Yeah, Jimmy Charlo, it was on the Bills. Yeah, he made that.
Toth
And I
is
got to
on
check if
the
did anyone
Eagles.
hear if Brent Toth held on with the Eagles this year?
He's still with
I
the
believe
Eagles.
so. Yeah, he's still with
Yeah,
the
he's
Eagles.
still with the Eagles. Yep.
Oh, good. We'll have to go down there and catch up with Brett.
So-
I still will never forget his block in the Armed Forces bowl game against San Diego State. Playing right tackle.
Oh, God.
Was
In
on the
the
team last year.
at the end of the game, Army needs a 2-point conversion to go ahead.
Oh, my God.
And I wasn't there. I was at an American Legion hall watching the game with some people. I said, they're going to run the ball over Brett Toth. What do? They run the ball over Brett Toth and they score the
ran.
2 points and they go ahead and they beat San Diego State.
Yep.
Love
They
telling,
sure
yeah.
did. They ran the jet toss for the 2-pointer. I was there. And
Okay.
that actually brings up a good point that I wanted to make, and that the conclusion of the Kansas State game. I've been to a lot of Monken games and been with the Army cheering section, and Stephanie and I were sitting right next to the Army band for this one, and very thankful to do that. The Kansas State game ranks in the top 5 of Monken games for the celebration that happened at the conclusion of the game. I've never seen the Soup as fired up as he was at the conclusion of this game.
You should have been.
The Armed Forces Bowl against San Diego State, that was one of them. We were knocking people over like a mosh pit when Kel Walker scored that 2-point conversion. And then when Elijah Riley intercepted the lateral and ran it in for a touchdown as time expired, it just was like gangbusters. And then, of course, the greatest of all time was when the streak was broken in 2016. And so thankful I was there. I don't think anyone recovered from that victory for about 3 months, honestly. It was
I was on the field getting run over by the cadets running out of the stand.
absolutely amazing.
It was, and then there was this afterwards when all the dignitaries went into the Army locker room and the players still couldn't get in because there were so many people trying to get in, and I was trying to listen in. And who's standing right behind me but General Dawkins?
Wow.
And I asked him, was it like this for any of your games? And he sort of nodded. So we've had some amazing days with Army football, especially in the Jeff Monken era. So many good victories. Hey, I got to remind on the score, the predictions from last week. Chuck was 28-14 Army, Jack 28-21, Stephanie 28-21. Sam, you were what, 31? You picked a loss.
It's the first time I
You
know.
got the dunk.
Look, that's the first time, and I pointed it out last week. I said, this is the first time ever in the huddle I am going to predict against Army. I said, Army needs to turn around. They have to have zero margin of error. I don't think it's going to happen this week. Coming out of the Tarleton State game, there were too many question marks that still had to be answered. But I finished it up by saying, but I want to be wrong. Not I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I was wrong. And I am so glad I was wrong. So
Well, now you got to pick Army to lose every week.
oh no. We're not going that direction.
Okay, well, I had it 21-17. I was down a field goal and a 2-point conversion.
Wow, you almost had it.
And Richard was 27-14. Yeah, well, it was a great day for Army football, and it really puts them back on track. I'm sure they wish they could play this upcoming week, but they're going to have the week off. And, they do have some injuries. Most notably, the nose tackle is out, Cody Harris-Miller. I asked Coach Munkin about it after the game. Jacob Tuioti was there. They had at least one other player in, but that was a big hole in the lineup to fill. And when I saw Cody at practice this week, he didn't look like he was going to be ready be ready in a while.
Yeah.
So we'll hope. And then you have the question about the quarterback situation. I think anyone's going to say Cale kind of, it's hard to not play Cale now going into next week. When North Texas comes to town.
You bring up
anyone want to speculate or suggest on the quarterback situation? How we all view it differently?
I'll open
than we
on
did?
this. I'll open on this, and then we'll let Curtis jump in. First off, you brought up a good point, and that is about Cody Harris-Miller. And you know how high I've been on Cody Harris-Miller in all of our huddles and how important he is to the defense, and the fact that he went out of the Tarleton State game with an injury that opened up a huge hole going into the Kansas State game. And we know that Nate Woody's defense relies on stopping the run. So with Cody Harris-Miller injured, it meant that next man up had to happen. It absolutely had to happen in this game. And I'm going to tell you that the next man up did happen in the Kansas State game because Nate Woody's defense held them to about 70 yards rushing, and that's it. And one of the ways that that the interior linemen did their job is that Andon Thomas, Caleb Fortner, and Casey Larkin were the leading tacklers in the game. The reason was because they were not being blocked at the second level. They were up on the line of scrimmage, and they were making hits at the line of scrimmage on these running backs. And that forced Kansas State into passing situations all the time. And that's what they had to do, was to force them into passing and not being able to gain big yardage on first down by running the ball. So good job on the next man up with the defense. Now,
did you guys see, I was trying on some of the plays, most of the time it was Jacob Tuioti, but I thought it was maybe 95 Matt Jenna in for some.
And
he had his 290 pounds.
I've watched the replay over and over again of Colin Madison's interception, and from every angle. And I am convinced now, after watching it multiple times, that the ball was slightly tipped at the line of scrimmage and that deflected it.
Yeah.
I am convinced now that pass was thrown off by getting slightly tipped at the line of scrimmage by one of the interior linemen. And if you watch every angle of the play, you will agree with me. I'm convinced that's what happened. So it was a total team effort. Before I hand it off to Curtis, I'm just gonna make mention of the quarterback because you asked about that. Yeah, we got a bye week coming up, and it's good because it gives Dwayne Coleman an opportunity. And Dwayne was actually dressed for the game. I was surprised by that.
He was moving around in warm-ups.
Yeah, he was dressed for the game, and I was surprised by that because I didn't think that he would even be dressed. He's going to get an extra week to heal. But I got to say straight away, what this team does not need during the bye week is a quarterback controversy. And I really do believe that Cale Helms demonstrated that he has earned the starting role on this team and that it is his job moving forward. And there is reason that I say that. He's a bigger kid. He's durable. He runs the ball like Bryson Daly. And he has had his opportunity to start against a Power Four team, and he literally willed the team into a victory in the second half. And there's something about the preseason practices that I've never really liked, and that is that the quarterbacks are always wearing the red shirts, and therefore they're not allowed to be hit. And so a fast guy looks great when he's not getting hit. What really counts is when you actually see someone taking the hits and leading the team and making the hits and making the plays in the tough environment that Casey Helms proved that he was ready to do. So again, I'm not sure what's going to happen when we play North Texas, and we'll talk about that game next week. But in my opinion, and just in my opinion, Cale Helms has earned the starting quarterback role, and I think that it's his, and he should be able to continue to be the starter come North Texas.
Sam, I tend to agree with you, but there's one big asterisk. He can't run the ball 41 times and survive very long.
Exactly.
I totally agree with you on that. I totally agree with you on that. I think that was a once in a lifetime moment. And very much like late last season, when suddenly it became all about Bryson Daly running it 35 or more times a game. I said he can't continue to do this. Army cannot become a one-dimensional team that relies solely on the quarterback. And I agree that Army cannot become a completely one-dimensional team that relies solely on Cale Helms to run the ball. But I will say that when Cale Helms had to throw the ball, he did a good job. And
no
believe it or
doubt.
not, he was not the leading passer of the game. Noah Short was. Noah Short completed one pass for 52 yards, and that's all
Yeah.
it took.
Yeah, Noah Short's quarterback rating is off the chart. But
I
the
will
thing,
say that when Cale Helms was in a passing situation, he made the right decision and he made the good throws.
now, Sam, that what you got to think watching Cale Helms is they simplified the offense and they tried to avoid turnovers by not pitching the ball very often and just
I
letting Cale
disagree with
run the
that.
ball.
I
It's a
I
very
totally
actually,
safe
disagree
I
with
offense.
that.
disagree
I
with that.
totally
Actually,
disagree with that, Ken.
I disagree with that.
Totally
Actually,
disagree
Go
with
ahead.
that. They
Go
were
ahead.
running perimeter plays.
Sam?
Between Noah Short and Carson Smith, you had 84 yards of perimeter play where there were pitch plays that were being made.
There
And
were some. I think they were trying to minimize it.
they
I
ran to the outside a lot
Well, they had to
on
run the
Saturday night.
outside. Yeah, no
And
doubt.
the way you get the ball to the outside is to pitch it. So they were not restricting this to simple handoff plays. He was pitching the ball, and he was running some option football. And hats off to Noah Short and Carson Smith for the job they did on the plays where they got their hands on the ball in the perimeter. Because if you go back and watch the game and you watch the perimeter play, it's not just the hard running by Noah and Carson, it's the blocking on the perimeter. But it's
Yep.
also the pitch by Cale Helms to get the ball to them at the right moment in space where they're able to get 5, 6, and 7 yards on the perimeter. So this was not a simplified game plan. There was a lot of ball dispersion.
I
I
agree.
get it.
Well,
Cale
I don't know
Helms
about
carried
that.
it for
I think
41
they
times.
simplified it.
Uh,
When in doubt, and you're trying to avoid turnovers, keep it simple. Unless you
No,
got Noah Short, who's got really good
Mm.
hands, he's not going to drop the ball.
No,
But
I'm going
I
to
do
tell you what
think,
simplification of. I'm going to tell you what simplification of a game plan is that does not work, and we'll get to this when the appropriate time comes because I am very hard after it, and that is this: when it comes time to play the Squids, simplification is what happened in the Army Navy last year, where only 3 ball carriers carried the
Okay.
ball. And Bryson Daly carried it over 50% of the entire game, and only 2 other players touched the ball. And that's what simplification of a game plan is, when you
And there you had a
need it.
quarterback,
But
and and that's on a night when your quarterback was 6th in the Heisman balloting,
It
which
still,
was
it
announced
still
yeah,
after
doesn't
the
but
game.
matter. It was a
I
game
think it
plan that
was.
doesn't work. It's a game plan that doesn't
It,
work.
it doesn't work, but it was indirectly simplified. I don't think it was directly simplified. I think it was going on, and I've talked about this on the GoBlackKnights.com, and I should have mentioned earlier that I'm affiliated with them, but more so, I think when it comes to the Army Navy game, and I'll make this quick, is that Army tends to, in that game against Navy, we tend to play the game of making decisions that ensure that we don't, cost us the game. That, we seem to,
It's
very
playing a very conservative game
very
plan,
conservative game plan. And when you look at Navy, on the
and
other hand, it's very, they're very open minded with their quarterback. I mean, you look at
Yep.
Malcolm Perry years ago, he would do these. I mean, it looked like they weren't playing calls, but he would just run around in circles
Yep.
essentially.
Yeah,
okay, well,
Even,
we'll agree to disagree on that. I just
but
look at that big 41 for runs for Cale Hellam, and that
no,
Yeah.
I
means you're
agree with you with
trying
that.
to
I
limit
totally
your
agree.
risk.
I was
totally
just going to
agree.
mention that, I guess, one of 2 things with the quarterback. So I guess, taking a step back, when you look at us going into Kansas State, with the Tarleton State game or after it, I was very concerned personally about the quarterback situation. I mean, we had in that game, there were a lot of things that happened, and I'm not going to go into details there, but I didn't feel, as a fan, or personally just being involved with the football team, just very comfortable with that quarterback situation. More so just the experience with our quarterbacks at the time. Looking at Cale Helms, he's a junior, but to my knowledge, he's a junior. I hope I got that right. But
Yeah,
he,
yes.
he hasn't had much experience playing behind, or being the 3 initially going into the season. And I know Washington got hurt, so it pushed him up to number 2 in the roster in terms of the quarterback position. But I think now, after the Kansas State game, I feel very comfortable with where we are in terms of the quarterbacks. I mean, it looked like, for example, Coleman didn't practice all week, to my knowledge. That's what I
No,
heard
he was
going into
out there
Kansas State game.
practicing. I saw him.
Oh, okay, so he was
I was
practicing.
at
My
practice both
apologies.
Tuesday and Wednesday, and he was there. But the snaps were being alternated by Cale and Zach Mundell. And
Yeah, so
Dwayne wasn't taking very many snaps. He was taking a few, but it was
I
obvious they
didn't.
were prepping Cale for the start.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Thank you for the insights. But with that said, it seemed as if, based off of the fact that he was working out, at least on TV, they kind of showcased him getting ready for the game in terms of warming up. It seemed like it was potentially a game ready or game based decision or game day decision on the coaching staff.
Cale said in the post game that he was told 2 days before
Oh.
that he would start.
Okay, never mind. Sorry, my apologies. But either way, going forward in terms of the quarterback situation, I feel very comfortable whether we go with Tolman or Helms going into North Texas. I'm very confident with Helms, and he showcased, especially as Sam mentioned, in terms of the passing game, whether we simplified the game or not against Kansas State for him. He showcased very good IQ in terms of passing. I mean, he threw some. There were some plays in which he had to get the ball away and throw it out of bounds. But
No doubt. Okay.
There were certain plays,
No doubt.
as in that touchdown in the first half, where he really. I mean, I know the read. I believe one of our slot backs chipped one of the defensive ends coming in, but that play almost got stuffed, and he ran. He noticed it quickly, reversed. At least it seemed to be the case, and he threw it to Brady. And so, I mean, I'm very comfortable with the quarterback situation.
And the
Until
pass
he
he
gets hurt.
threw,
We've seen a lot of quarterbacks at Army get hurt, and they have to again get his carries down closer to 20 per game than 40, so that he can survive.
Totally agree.
The schedule.
It didn't help that Hayden
Reed
Reed
Zach
got hurt.
Mundell in a quarterback
Had to come
before
out.
too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't
And
help that Hayden. It didn't help that Hayden Reed got hurt and had to come out, because that cost a few carries as well. But the pass that Helms threw to Noah Short to set up 1st and goal from the 5.
Yep.
That
Okay.
pass was one of the best passes I've seen thrown by an Army quarterback
Yep.
under duress in a long time. He threw
Okay.
that because Noah Short was extremely well covered, and he put it into a tight window that, I would have expected someone like Tom Brady to have done. It
Okay.
just was an amazing pass.
Okay. Hey,
Apparently, go ahead. Sorry.
Stephanie's keeping watch on our time clock. How much more time do we have in our hour segment? Do we hit an hour yet? No? Okay, let's go through, let's hear
We
from
have
Jack
hit an
McGurk.
hour.
Okay, then we got to hustle. We
We'll
try to
hustle
keep us
through
to an
it.
hour.
Okay.
So Jack McGurk, tell us about how Navy and Air Force did this past week.
Well, Air Force had a bye week, and this weekend they are on the road at Utah State, first Mountain West Division game of the season for Air Force there. And then Navy improved 2-0, 38-24 win over UAB. Senior running back Alex Texa rushed for 111 yards, had a touchdown on 15 carries. Blake Horvath, the senior quarterback, threw for 168 yards, had a touchdown, ran for 72 yards, had two rushing touchdowns in the game. Navy had 463 yards total offense, 295 rushing, 168 passing. Eli Heidenreich rushed for 67 yards, had a 9-yard touchdown run. And the game was actually delayed twice for a total of 2 hours and 6 minutes in the first half because of severe thunderstorms in the area. But Navy is 2-0. This is the first time that Navy has started the season 2-0 in back-to-back years since 2016-2017. And Navy is on the road this weekend against Tulsa.
Okay. And Army will be down at UAB in just a couple of weeks. Looking forward to that. Okay, Chuck, do you have the scores of the other games in the American Athletic Conference for us?
Yep. I do indeed, Ken. We had quite a few close contests this past weekend. We'll tell you that.
Well, no, so tell us about South Florida. God, they're looking pretty good.
Yeah.
That was
Looking
certainly
fire.
one of them. Yep. All right. Yeah. South Florida was certainly a close contest. And
you got that one?
All right.
Yeah, Florida in the swamp.
Yep, but it certainly was 18-16 against Florida. Wow.
Truly, Florida, that's a pretty big win for them. It shows that they're at the very top of the conference.
They're now ranked number 18.
Glad we're not going to see them necessarily until a possible championship game.
Yeah, and we had a couple of blowouts over the weekend as well. Auburn really gave it to Ball State 42-3, and on the Miami ECU game, that was 45-3.
So Miami over ECU, who will be at in a couple of weeks also. In fact, Army's going to have a stretch of hosting North Texas, and then just 5 days later on a Thursday night, we'll be playing down at East Carolina. And boy, those East Carolina fans were so upset last year that they lost to Army. I mean, I think they fired the coach right after that game.
They sure did.
Ouch.
And boy, I was watching some of their boards and some of their podcasts, and boy, they were so hot about that loss at Michie Stadium last year that they're going to be circling this. But still, to me, it comes down to how many of your players did you hold on to from the year before, and how many transfers are you playing? Is how you have to analyze a college football team this year. And we saw last year the teams that had were playing a lot of transfers struggled. Most notably Florida Atlantic. Okay, so any other games in the American Athletic Conference of note?
Oh yeah, there were definitely some others, Ken, I'll tell you that much. Besides the ones I mentioned, South Carolina had, solid win against SC State. That was 38-10.
Okay.
South Carolina State, yeah.
Okay, and Richard, what are you got any of the games coming up this week? We're gonna have time to watch a lot of games on TV, perhaps.
Definitely. Definitely. There's certainly going to be a lot of games over the weekend. as we go to the
So since you can't watch the Army game, Richard, what are you gonna watch?
What am I gonna watch? I know that. Let's see. What am I going to be watching? Well, I'm gonna be watching. Let's see. I'm gonna be watching. Oh, well, number one, the USC and Purdue game at 3:30, and also the Georgia and Tennessee game also at 3:30. Simultaneously, simultaneously
Okay.
on my Fubu app, and also of course later I'll be watching number 3 LSU taking on Florida. That will be at 7:30, and also of course number 9 Illinois taking on Western Michigan, and also number 16 Texas A&M against number 8 Notre Dame also at 7:30.
Okay, very good.
Yes, I
Very
will
good,
be having
Richard.
all three games on bars on my laptop.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And Jack, who are Navy and Air Force playing this week? Do we have Jack? Do we lose Jack?
Air Force is playing Boise
Turn my
State.
microphone off there for a second. Yeah. Air Force is on the road at Utah State, and Navy is on the road at Tulsa.
Okay, that's right. You mentioned that. That would be interesting. And another test for Navy to see how good they really are this year.
Yeah.
Okay, Chuck, anything else you?
As
I'm
difficult
sorry.
as it is for me to stomach watching either of the other service academies, the fact that Army's not playing this weekend means that I am going to control my gag reflex, and I'm going to watch both Navy and Air Force play this weekend so we can know our enemy.
Well, I think
There you
I'm
go.
going to the Yankees at the Red Sox on Saturday myself.
Oh.
but,
Go Sox.
we'll see what
Ouch.
happens on that one.
Go
But,
Yeah.
Yankees.
Chuck,
Amen to that.
do you have anything else in the American Athletic Conference on games that the conference teams will be playing this week?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do, Ken. There's quite a few good matchups coming this weekend. Yep, I know Friday night we've got Indiana State against Indiana, 6:30. Yeah,
Okay, in
and
the American Athletic Conference, though. You got to get the American Athletic Conference. We're in
Yep.
a conference now.
yes, we are.
Second year, we're undefeated. We want
Yep.
to say that way.
Yep, we definitely do.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Let
Okay,
me-
well, we'll come back to that. Okay, we had a break. I want to thank Curtis for joining us. Got some terrific insight. Any final thoughts, Curtis?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm looking forward to watching South Florida play Miami
Okay.
this week, only because of the American Conference. I know that they're not in our they're in the West, I think, but they're not in our division, so we're not playing them this year unless we play them in the championship game. But South Florida, I mean, the fact that they took on Boise State and held their own and they won dominantly. And then Florida, I mean, I watched the game. They came in the fourth quarter and took them down. They ran down the field and kicked and scored and won the game. So I want to see them play Miami, see where they're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
How about Memphis? What's Memphis looking like?
They are second in the AAC right now.
Okay, so they got a win.
They have 2 wins, one
Okay.
home and away.
Yeah.
They
Yeah, they
are
beat
Okay.
Georgia
right
State.
behind. They are right behind
Okay.
Navy, then North Texas, then South Florida, then Temple, Tulane, and then Army.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say
They
Memphis,
blew out.
South.
I think Navy and UAB are the only ones that have played a conference game so far, and of course Navy won. But Navy did not. I gotta be honest. Navy did not look dominant. They did not beat UAB the way I expected them to. And before the weather delays, this was actually a shootout game. I'm not sure what happened in the locker room during the weather delay. Maybe Navy got an ass chewing that caused them to get motivated, or UAB just lost their mojo. But other than that, UAB was actually hanging pretty well with Navy at Navy.
I mean, it's similar to
Okay.
that time last year where Navy played Rice and there was a rain delay and then
Exactly.
Rice ended up winning. But
Yep.
I watched the Navy game and I always analyze it because it's Navy, but it's also they run the triple option. I think it was unique, and I'll make it quick, is that Navy actually, for the first time in a while, ran a shotgun formation in which they didn't have any triple option maneuvers within it. It was just a true shotgun, taking 3 steps back and throwing it. And their quarterback was able to connect with their tight end on 2 occasions, which was shocking to see. I mean, we're opening up their playbook at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's call it. We got a bye week, so we can watch everybody else or watch baseball. And then get back at it for next week. A big game against North Texas.
Yeah, Ken,
And
if I can, I just wanted to throw something out there real quick, and I'll let you wrap it up. First off, we didn't really give a shout out to Brady Anderson, tight end. 3 catches for 64 yards. I think that's the most catches by an Army tight end in a long time, and he had a phenomenal game. We also have to call out Colin Madison, who is filling the shoes of Max DiDomenico, and the guy broke up 3 passes and intercepted on Kansas State's final drive. One of those passes was definitely a fumble that was recovered by Army, but Big 12 officiating, of course, favored Kansas State. Karma was Colin Madison then intercepting the pass that we talked about earlier that I do believe was tipped at the line of scrimmage. And then as far as Monken wins over P4, P5 teams, I think the K-State win ranks as the #1 victory, in my opinion. This is purely my opinion, over P4, P5 teams and in the Monken era. That includes 2016 over Wake Forest during their homecoming, which I was at, 2017 over Duke at Mikey Stadium, and let's not forget the 2021 victory in the last second kickoff field goal kick over Missouri in the Armed Forces Bowl. And let me give an honorable mention to the victory in the Armed Forces Bowl over Houston. I only mention that because Houston is now in a P4, P5 conference.
yeah, what was the final score? Houston 73 to 10.
70 to 14. Yeah.
70 to 14. Yeah, their coach and Army got their Houston coach fired.
Yeah,
Yeah, Houston didn't show up to play that day.
that game was over at halftime.
Maybe before that. And I think the bowl games have been a little bit suspect because some of the teams just haven't come to play. Army always comes to play.
Every time.
And Army treats those games as a Super Bowl.
And Army's undefeated in Armed Forces Bowl.
Yeah, and so some of the other
Who was that
schools haven't
team that
always come
canceled
to
on
play.
us? Who was that team that canceled on us
Marshall.
last year?
Marshall.
Yeah.
We are
Well,
Marshall.
It was also what was UCLA, Sam, who canceled out of the Independence Bowl in 2020.
Yeah, that was there was a bunch of moving pieces. There was Tennessee, and Tennessee was supposed to play, I think, UCLA in the Liberty Bowl, and because of COVID, Tennessee was like a 5-6 team, and they canceled out, and UCLA canceled out because of COVID. So West Virginia got the invite, and there was this big push by the NCAA that, hey, Army deserves a bowl game because Army had 9 wins and they had not been invited to any bowl game. And so Army got in the Liberty Bowl, which was a good game. It was an unfortunate loss for Army, but it was a very good game, and Army lost it late, as we know. But I was there, and I was thankful to be there.
Yeah, no, it was very competitive. Army was a little shorthanded.
They were.
due to
They had
COVID.
several players who didn't play because of COVID, and they had some coaches that weren't there because of COVID as well.
Well, Coach Monken did the right thing and sent everybody home for a few days for Christmas and brought
He
them
sure
back.
did.
But
Yeah.
unfortunately, many came back with COVID. It was a very difficult year, but they played, and they showed well, and were very competitive. Okay,
Yeah.
let's break. We went a little long and try to keep this to an hour if we can, but it was great to have Curtis. Curtis, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes.
Sorry, certainly. I was trying to unmute myself. Thank you for having me.
Great to see you. I hope you'll join us again. And then we have Richard Miller from West Palm Beach. Richard, thank you. And we
You're
had Chuck
welcome, Ken.
Donegan
Always a
from Long
pleasure.
Island. Okay.
It was a
Chuck
pleasure, Ken.
Donegan. Very good, Chuck. Thank you. And we had Jack McGurk from Pelham.
Happy to be here.
Okay. And we have Stephanie from out of Minnesota. Thank you.
Yep.
Great job. Really, I got to compliment you, Stephanie. You worked out how to be able to show the film clips of Coach Munkin and Cale Helms. And that's a breakthrough for us. We haven't done that before. We're going to try and do that each week because we have a lot of video we can share.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we'll do more of that. But great job with that, Stephanie. Great, really impressive.
Thank
And
you.
then from the Beat Navy studio in Huntsville, Alabama. And Sam, I got to ask you, what you're thinking? All of a sudden, Huntsville is going to be a Space Force town.
Yes.
Yeah, well, the DoD in their independent survey back when the Space Force was originally created, in their independent survey, they originally picked Huntsville and Redstone Arsenal #1 on their list. Colorado Springs was #5. And so the decision was made based on that recommendation for Space Force headquarters to be here at Redstone. That, of course, was reversed during the Biden years to stay at Colorado. But now, rightfully, Space Force headquarters is coming to Redstone Arsenal. And from my personal perspective, what I'm most excited about is that this is going to push the population at Redstone over to where Redstone is finally going to get a new commissary in PX. So I'm very excited
Okay.
about that. So
That's good.
we're looking forward to
Well,
that.
I'll tell you though, I've been to a couple of Association of the U.S. Army conferences, heard from General Rainey and also from the NATO commander, General Yankowicz. And they all say space is vital for the U.S. Army, that they're the largest customer of the Space Force, of
Yes.
all the satellites that they need to conduct operations for the U.S. Army. So that's a good move. Redstone is a high-tech area. Obviously, where Wernher von Braun and his team put together the rockets that put an American on the moon. And so that's a neat development. So, okay, let's call it. Thank you for watching. This is Ken Kreitzer for CamVetsMedia. We cover cadets, midship, and the military and veterans proudly since 2008. Thanks for watching.
Go Army.
Go Army.
Go Army.